everybody. And now let's talk automation.
What do you think is the most important factor impacting transformation in our current landscape today?
I think it's the speed in which things are evolving. So I like to compare it to the telecommunications market back when Nokia was king of the jungle. And, they were king of the jungle for a long time. And then very quickly, Motorola came in, became the new king of the jungle. And then Apple came in, king of the jungle. Then Samsung came in. So it's a very fast moving market. So the speed at which that we're moving in is the thing that's making everything happen. So everything is becoming easier to use. Everything is becoming cheaper as well, given all the different good solutions that are coming into the market. And then because of the hype around it and the fact it's really making an impact in a lot of companies, a lot of industries, a lot more people are getting trained up in this space as well. So there's a massive gearing towards mass adoption that's taking place. And that's, in a sense, going to transform what it has already transformed in the past. So yeah, just the speed in which this is happening is just tremendous.
Where do you think we're going to see automation go in the next 2 to 5 years?
I think we are at an inflection point, Emma, in the automation market, in my humble opinion. In my definition of the automation market is broad and not one with RPA at the center of the universe. And from FTE reduction as a buzzword about 5 years ago, we are now talking about talent augmentation, right? From rapidly scaling technology, we are seeing that mere 10% of the 25,000 customers that exist in the market can truly exhibit scale. And most of the RPA adopters are tinkering with POCs and not rushing to enterprise adoption. We've all heard of B2B. I think in 2 to 5 years, I believe we will see a C2C in automation, which is commoditization to convergence, and further commoditization of attended RPA. We're already seeing that, and that's the case with the new Microsoft pricing and the SAP bundling that's happening out there, as well as the vast discounting by RPA vendors with gravity-defining CAC ratios, right? Customer acquisition cost ratios. So we will see convergence of automation technologies, the very thing that automation started off with, which was all about connecting various systems that don't talk to each other, is causing increased technical debt and reduced ROI because of the multitude of automation technologies that exist out there that don't talk to each other, that don't have a common metadata-driven, cloud-first, low-code approach. And I think fragile bot-based architecture that sometimes leads to decreased ROI and increased technical debt will give rise to a new paradigm, a platform that integrates these solutions to reduce the risk that customers have today. Data, not bots, will be the fuel that propels automation in the next 2 to 5 years.
What is potentially the future of your organization if you're not doubling down on digital transformation today?
One way that I like to explain it is, if you have two companies in a market, and every company has repetitive tasks. It doesn't matter what industry you're in. And one of those companies starts to combine, the human workforce and the digital workforce together. We have to not be so egocentric here and thinking that humans are good at everything. Our fingers can only move so fast. We don't have such an amazing memory, such as computers have. So let's say that company, gives half of their work to the digital workforce, and it's working well. Over time, when it's competing with the other company who hasn't done anything to do with automation, who do you think is going to win? The other company, half of the workforce doesn't sleep at night, doesn't take weekends off, doesn't take holidays, doesn't have paternity, maternity leave, and all of this good stuff. Over time, over a space of a year or two, the company who did automate is going to be miles ahead of the other company if it's done correctly, right? Obviously, if it's done in a bad way, the company who didn't automate will be ahead. So that's this is happening more and more. I can't think of a single industry where there isn't at least some example of automation happening. So the companies who started this early are ahead of the curve. A lot of companies who were doing this before COVID happened, once COVID hit and people were trying to scramble home, trying to get their access to working, trying to go through Citrix to connect to their computers back at work. Companies who had automation, those automations were working in the background and they were helping keep those companies alive. So I think, the reason for double down is a lot of companies who didn't automate realize that they're behind now, especially after COVID hit. The other reason for doubling down is there is no more excuse now for not being able to find good people, for not being able to afford it, because there's all kinds of automation companies now at different price points. The whole thing about, we're still trying to see what works, we're doing proof of concepts, that's something I'm really against, proof of concepts, unless it's something very specific in AI, you're trying to solve a very complicated problem, then you should do a proof of concept. But for things like RPA or intelligent automation, if you want a proof of concept, just look around you, look at your competitors. They can show you plenty of case studies that work for them. So the reason for double down here is there is no more excuse. Everybody acknowledges and everybody has seen that automation is a transformational program. It's getting cheaper, more approachable, and it's becoming the top 5 or top 10 priorities of almost every major company on earth, especially the ones which are market leading. So basically, the end of the story there is, if you're not getting into it, then don't complain later on if your company is going out of business or losing clients, because you can't keep up with the speed and rate that your competitors are going up against.
When we look at businesses, why do businesses exist? An organization needs to make cash. The commercial context is what I'm talking about here. The beautiful thing is when you intelligently automate or digitally transform, then all of a sudden you can get a balanced scorecard of benefits. So you can get the ROI, you can get happier customers, you can get happier staff, you can drive quality, you can reduce E&O risk, you can improve process compliance. All those things are absolutely critical. And when you're putting a business case together, and this is something organizations need to do right at the very start, you need to understand your North Star. The North Star is, look, where is the business actually going? What does the business actually do? Where are they going to play in order to allow them to make cash in excess of cost? This is the stuff that happens in your P&L. This is the NOI. This is the money in excess. This is called profit. This is real cash, real money. If your automation or your digital transformation program is not resulting in your organization actually generating more cash than it spends transforming, then you're in trouble.
I see automation being similar to what cryptocurrency is to the financial world, right? Because we have this, because this can be so impactful to the way that we work, the way that we behave, taking the robot out of the human type approach. This can fundamentally change the whole structure of the business world, just like cryptocurrency can change the whole structure of the financial world. So it is that big. I mean, it is that impactful. And if it's done properly and embraced, this can really change how we work at a fundamental level.
If you had your crystal ball of what the future of work would look like, tell me what that is. And you're 2 minutes flat there, Danilo.
The next couple of years is going to be just about adoption. RPA is still going to be adopted, even though it's very mature. AI is going to become very heavily embedded into the world of automation. AI is becoming more off the shelf. It's becoming cheaper. You don't need data scientists anymore in order to develop algorithms. And that's going to take us to the next 5 years at least. By the end of that, I think Python is going to be pretty much how Excel was in the 90s. Everybody's going to have to learn or understand Python, or learn and understand automation tools which are available in the market. Then that's going to breed a new level or a new kind of business user. It's going to breed the business user which is a hybrid, a person who's a techie and a business user at the same time, who understands processes. And when that happens, I think that's when we're finally going to make massive structural changes to companies. Because companies are going to change structurally, that's then going to impact society and how society works and thinks about work. And then lastly, governments are then finally going to catch up to all of this and start putting in place a special kind of corporation tax, perhaps, for robots or for automation programs, to then fund the reskilling of people that have been left behind.
I'm a big believer that organizations are made up of two things, people and everything else. And often what is less talked about is the benefit of automation to talent augmentation. I believe talent augmentation will be the new form of talent sourcing. Augmenting talent, or as I like to call it, skilling me softly, is an outcome of automation that we should never ignore. And the very nature of work will change. I believe that post-pandemic, we're seeing a lot of people work from home. We are seeing hybrid type of scenarios. We're seeing people who are not going back to work and continuing in a virtual environment. With what we have talked about here and the growth in automation, I foresee a time when work will be a conversation, right? Why should we have a meeting and then go back and summarize the meeting and then delegate actions, then email things and sometimes call people for updates? Work today is being done outside of the conversation. And I envision a time when there are bots listening to our cues, picking up on actions, performing those actions while we're conversing, and a future where work is the conversation. And I think this nature of work, galvanized by automation, will give us a gift and a choice. The gift will be that of time, time freed up to from the work that is done today. And the choice is ours. What will humans do with that time?